Today was the topic about mm, something we already know so well, but well, it was meant to be the part of the course. We have to shift from the uh, Vedic paradigm to the post-Vedic, to the Vedantic, to the Brahmanic literature and Upanishadic literature. And there was a drift from the Vedic, which was more fundamentally integral, as it were. So all the elements, all the structures were presented in the Veda. You could see very highly developed language of the mental structure with all the precisions of the terms. You can also sense the magic structure with all the oneness of the world perceived in every hymn. You can see also mythical structure with aspiration and seeking the divine grace. So you could sense all of them highly developed and put into a very interesting combination or form, which was efficient, as it were, was not structures were not dominating one another. They were contributing to the meaning of what is to be conveyed. And so, which is very rare because usually one structure dominates the other. If you have scientific approach, you become very intolerant of any religious ideas or any shamanic ideas. So how to find that balance between shamanic, religious, and scientific, so to say, frameworks? And that is something very rare. We find it also in Savitri, Sri Aurobindo Savitri. This integral approach to knowledge, where all these approaches are balanced and become efficient rather than deficient because of their, presence. So that was the Veda, the Vedic vision, the Vedic approach. It was more mantric. It was from of the highest kind humanity knew, I think. But later, what happened later, that knowledge was forgotten, and the mantras were applied more in ritualistic way. So the rishis of the later time of the Brahmanas, of the Brahmanic period, in the Brahmanic period, they started to make the commentaries on the Vedas. And those commentaries, if you read them, you will see that they are all of ritualistic explanation. They apply the texts of the Veda to certain ritualistic context. And many times that application is very approximate. 99% of the time, the application is kind of out of the blue, as it were. Maybe not 99, 90%. 10% it is there still. But it's very rare because the out of ritual is was meant to do something else. It was meant to to fix us in the cultural sense. So it was already working for the audience. It was a presentation of some kind. This kind of it's very interestingly described in the Bharatanatyam, in this Natya Shastra, yes? Natya Shastra begins with the sacrifice to the gods, where the first audience of that sacrifice were the gods. And then later what happened, that the audience from the gods got shifted towards human beings. Yeah? It became a theater kind of. Yeah? So all this ritualism became a presentation, a theater. Theater comes from there, I guess. So, and all these forms of art, to present something, and then we will feel going to the cinema, watching the movie, we all cry and we are all overwhelmed with experience, or we read the books. It's all that. We are working for the audience. The other day we were discussing this with Teresa and Charles, and we have two different views. Me and rather insist that we have to work for people. We are here for people. We have to simplify knowledge. People have to understand it. They have to come and kind of make use of it. And I believe that it is not so. In my hearts of hearts, yeah, I can't really accept it totally that it is only for people. I think there is something, the alignment with the gods. With you have to discover the knowledge. How can you simplify something you don't have? You have to have it. And once you have it, once you embody it, you may try to simplify, if you will. And then there was example given that a mother was speaking so simple, but that was the mother. She was embodying the knowledge, Yeah, I don't have the knowledge to simplify, really. I am still seeking for knowledge. So there is not something I can sell before I have it. So this is the shift. Why I'm saying this, because that will explain the shift from the Vedas, which was more oriented for the internal use, yeah, of the knowledge. Knowledge had to come and change and transform me, first of all, me in a sense as a receptacle, as the one who calls, and then through me change the world. Yeah? But not to change the world because I know some secret, but I'm not following it really. And I'm not sure about this, but I will teach you anyhow. Which is usually the case. If you see around, you will see how much it is. And we are speaking also the language of the teachers, are learning by teaching and so on. Why we do this? Because we want really also to learn something, not only to teach. So the teaching becomes the opportunity for us to learn. So this shift towards Brahmanas and then towards Upanishads took place. Upanishads, first, Sri Aurobindo says, was the attempt to revive the Vedic knowledge through Brahmanas. So they tried to assign to it some significance they could, yeah? Some kind of mythology, visions or stories, and then apply it to the ritualistic context. So that would be always remembered, repeated. Every time you do the offering or sacrifice, you repeat the mantra. It becomes part of your, it is engraved in stone in your memory. Yeah? And that thing becomes it creates the culture, basically, yes. When you do this for thousands of years, it becomes a part of your identity, part of social identity, because people come to these performances, yes, to this theater, and they absorb a lot of it. They kind of identify themselves and their energies through these mantras, through these offerings. So the cult builds the culture. Actually, it's the same word. Yeah? Culture is the outcome of the repetition of the same ritualistic form. And all culture comes from religious forms, yeah? From the cultic forms, as we know. In India, in the West, look at Western culture, European. It's all religious, yeah. Music, Bach, it's all about God, about praising Jesus and so on. It's never coming from some kind of secular culture. There is no secular culture at all. There is only religious culture because it is coming from the cult. So this shift towards the cult more, as Sri Aurobindo says, where the cloth becomes more important than personality, which was so just look at yourself. I am the cloth. I'm the suit, and so, or I am the language, what I speak. I am the manners, behavior. I'm not myself anymore. I'm a presentation of something which has to be sold to the society, and that's it. So this drift took place to the conventional age, as Sri Aurobindo calls it. And this conventional age actually evaporated the spirit of the Veda. The spirit kind of got lost, but the presentation remained. So, and then there was an attempt to change that. There were several, and one of them was Buddhism. Buddhism didn't want to tolerate that, empty convention. They are actually fighting with empty convention. You can see that, yeah? They don't believe in these Brahmins, explaining to you some mythology without living it, without knowing what it is. The same happened to Gita. Gita is criticizing Vedism in that conventional form. Gita, Buddhism, Jainism, these are the forms which came as a response to this conventional form, which was only a presentation. And Upanishads, Sri Aurobindo says, Upanishads was the attempt to revive the true knowledge of the Veda. This is important for us to understand. The convention became so sticky and steamy that they had to enter and to change it. So, as Sri Aurobindo says, that they tried, they saw the meaning in the Veda, but they could not express it in the same way, or to reveal the meaning in the same language, because they were already in a different structure of consciousness. So they needed to invent their own way of explaining that experience. Yeah? So, as Sri Aurobindo says, the Upanishads are more involved in the creation of their own system rather than explaining what was there in the Vedas. Yes? But interestingly enough, all the Upanishads are dealing with some Vedic phrases, mantras. They take them as the supreme knowledge. And the major argument of Sri Aurobindo was about the Veda, because Radhakrishnan and others are speaking that the Vedas belong to some immemorial time, to some Stone Age or something, barbaric past, and the Upanishads are the beginning of the real culture and spirituality in India. He says, how come that Upanishadic rishis have such a deep reverence towards this knowledge of the Vedas, and they consider it to be the supreme knowledge? If we really believe that Upanishads are this highest form of knowledge, how come that the rishis of the Upanishads consider Vedas to be the supreme knowledge? So maybe we are missing the point somewhere. Can't be true. So you praise the Upanishads, but you belittle the Vedas. It doesn't work somehow. So that was his major argument, that we have to look into the Vedas and see there's something else. So there was another language coming, and that was more of intuitive mind, as Sri Aurobindo says, yes, of the Upanishads. They created, one foot was still in the Vedas, but another foot was already in the mental structure of consciousness. They were already closer to us as individual beings. So now, after this long introduction, I am coming to my PowerPoint. I had to make a point on it. Otherwise, it would be not clear what it is. So it's a pre-Sankhyayic paradigm. This is an important thing. And pre-Sankhyayic means pre-mental structure. So it is already kind of on the way towards the symmetries of the mind, but still does not really care much about it. It is more interested in the knowledge experience rather than explanation of knowledge. So let me open the... If you have any questions or remarks, you can always do, yeah? You know it, yeah? You can interrupt. Praveen most probably will start now with Sankhya or something, yeah, Praveen? We will come to Sankhya, Praveen. We will have the whole hour for it.